Let me dive briefly into this subject called bitterness. I was in London going to school, met a vivacious couple. The wife was attractive, energetic, 65 or so years old, engaged, optimistic. One day, she and her husband said, "Let's go meet my sister." We went to meet the sister, and I thought it was the grandmother, maybe the mother, answering the door. The sisters were 1 year apart. I knew there was a story. We had dinner, and over dinner, I understood that these two girls, 16 and 17, were the daughters of a British naval attaché, 1941, Hong Kong, Japanese invaded, their family was taken captive. These two young girls were captors in the Camp Stanley prison camp for 2.5 years. In the first month of their occupation, the Japanese raped 10,000 civilians in that short time. You can only imagine what befell those young girls. And yet now, 50 years later, one of them is lovely, vivacious, optimistic. The other one is gnarled, eaten up from the inside and from the outside. Never have I seen such a clinical study of the impact of bitterness. Next slide, please. I would offer 3 quick tips. Don't take the bait. You know, we live in a society of microaggressions. We live in the society of a chip on our shoulder. We must work hard to flee the spirit of offense, church. Whether it's in our interpersonal relationships or within the body of Christ, we must flee the spirit of offense. It says in James, be quick to hear, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Secondly, we must choose to forgive, loosen our grip. Thirdly, we must choose gratitude. On this slide, I highlight a couple of wonderful books from Nancy Lee DeMoss in that manner. The summary of this: bitterness is a cancer of the soul. The antidote to this bitterness are gratitude and forgiveness. We've got to fight for gratitude and forgiveness to overcome that. Jerry White was former president of the Navigators. He was an Air Force Brigadier General as well. He was in Colorado Springs, my Sunday school teacher, and he didn't come to class one Sunday, and then the next Sunday he came back. He was absent because his son had been murdered. His son was a taxi cab driver, Colorado Springs, shot in the back of the head. When something like that happens, it's sort of the elephant in the room. He came back, and he was very kind and gracious. People were wondering, and Jerry said, "Well, let me tell you what the Lord is saying to me." He said, as we grow older, if we're growing spiritually, we will grow in hope. If we're not growing spiritually, we will grow in bitterness. And I think each one of you at your various phases of life, I know I have observed forks in the road where people either get better or they get bitter. They grow in hope. They become a merchant of hope, prayerfully, or they get bitter and they spiral downward. I would pray that all of us might choose that path of hope, that we might all choose to be that tennis ball, and we can only get to be that tennis ball as we practice resilience God style.